let me say one thing. So the two filmmakers that we can not do it if people feel really uncomfortable. But just so you know, we know Israel is the person who made the Freedom Sleepers movie.
Yeah, here.
It was the people in here that really made that film.
But just so that you have some context of who Israel is not like a spy or something. Then Wes is one of the founders of the Salinas Union of the Homeless.
Mm-hmm. California Homeless Union.
And he's the California Homeless Union.
Poor People's Campaign.
Yeah. And he has worked closely with Anthony Prince, who was aiding us here in legal struggles in Santa Cruz. So that's who the two people are with the camera.
So does anybody object to their film?
Yeah, I absolutely do. You're missing the point. It's not about what side they're on. It's about the process, the practice. Well, let me finish. It's about the practice of shoving cameras in everybody's faces when we're trying to have a meeting to get something done, and then taking that film, which hardly anybody's going to watch except for maybe the wrong people, and then shoving it all over the U.S. and who knows whose office to make their little videos. They're around us enough if you haven't noticed.
Okay, so anybody else who's opposed to have...
Not that it really matters.
Okay, you...
I have a comment.
Yes.
Nobody over here said that, I understand you, but nobody over here said that they opposed to it. And if you're out of the video, like one of the gentlemen said, you're out of the video. But I think this process might help a lot more people.
No, it's not going to help.
Maybe that can't be here.
You express yourself. My name is Phil Posner, and I'm going to introduce Steve. In a way, Robert and I and Keith came up with the idea of this meeting. I want to say to you all that this issue is complex and it's filled with emotion. I expect that everybody here is going to respect each other. That is to say, no name calling, no screaming, or all of us will ask that person to leave. So it's an important meeting. We value each other's opinion, but please, let's respect each other and allow the process to take place. Yes?
I'm Tom, I'm the facility manager. He does have a point. I think people should ask before they just video because you have no idea where that's going to end up, which is good, but also him just going off like that, that's not appropriate in this space.
Right. Thanks for saying that.
If he doesn't like it, he's free to leave, which he did.
Right. Okay, thanks for saying that. Okay, we're going to... Steve's going to introduce himself, and then we're going to go around and introduce each other. Elise?
Yeah. I would like to say something a little bit in defense of my friend, may I, before we go forward? Okay. Sure, I'll be brief. I do think that a lot of people who have been outside a long time, living outside, are often really concerned and very nervous, and often there's even more serious issues underlying our feelings about authorities and professional people and people who might not have experienced homelessness. And so I just want to say that I really appreciate that the tone be a little understanding of maybe the feelings of intense anxiety. Thank you.
So my name is Steve Plank. I'm a member of Conscience and Action, and welcome to this this gathering and really call to action this evening. This gathering is sponsored by Conscience and Action, of course, also by HUF, Homeless United for Friendship and Freedom, Santa Cruz Food Nonviolence, and the Poor People's Campaign to all come together to talk, to strategize, to see what we can do about really changing the narrative, for one thing, in our community from really hate and bigotry and really distrust to one of understanding and respect. That's the starting point, I think, for us. It's a starting point for us as individuals. It's a starting point for us as a group, and it's a starting point for us this evening. That we all accept that as a principle, in which we're going to be making our decisions and our discussions and the things we're going to be talking about. We weren't going to have some unhoused musicians here to sing John Lennon's Imagine. Unfortunately, they have not arrived yet, but we're going to be doing much more than imagining a community without hate. We're going to be actively working for a community without hate. And that's one of the things we want to keep foremost in our minds and work on tonight. Some of the areas of discussion tonight will be the current conditions at the Ross Camp, current plans for that camp either remaining where it is or perhaps moving to other places. And I'm glad that we're having many more people come because this is an important, very important community discussion for all of us to have. So let's take a moment actually and make some room for our not too late arrivals. Good, well thanks for this wonderful turnout for what really is maybe one of the most important and challenging issues that face our community today, and that is our emergency shelter capacity. Is it adequate? I think everybody in this room would agree with this now. Do we need to do more? I'm sure that everybody in this room would agree that we need to do more. What is it that we need to do? How are we going to strategize that? How are we going to make this a community that accepts the fact that we need to find a place for people to sleep? That is the challenge that we all face individually, every day, and as a strategy as we move forward. That's why it was so important, and I really am thankful to my colleagues and friends in Conscious Action and Food Without Bombs, the Poor People's Campaign, and HUF for calling us all here together. That's why I call this a call to action, a gathering, because we are gathering as a community to think and discuss and to strategize and perhaps come up with some actions that we can carry forward from today to address some of the needs in our community. One of the things we'll be discussing, as I said, is the existence of the Ross Camp. Its current condition today, what it's going to look like tomorrow, what it's going to look like in the future. Will it remain a viable encampment for people that are unsheltered in Santa Cruz? Will it move? Will we all have ideas about that? I'm sure we will. We're looking forward to hearing everyone's idea about that. That's why we're all here. Because this is the richness of Santa Cruz. It's the diversity. This is why we're able to address these challenges and really come up with solutions that really meet the values that exist in our community. And community values are a very strong component of everything we do, and particularly what we do tonight. We're going to be talking, we're going to be hearing from some of the folks from Ross Camp. At some point, we're hoping that you'll be able to dialogue with them, because I think that's very important. We'll be talking about some strategies that we might bring to City Council in terms of the continued existence or the movement of the Ross Camp as it exists. There'll be certainly some direct action considerations. We'll be talking about some legal strategies that we've been developing. There is no reason, there was some suggestion earlier that there may be people who are opposed to people sleeping outside in Santa Cruz, who are opposed to generating more an adequate emergency shelter system, and that may be some kind of an opportunity, not to listen to them, but to guard ourselves against disclosing strategies. That's not what we're going to do. That's not who we are. Who we are people who are open and willing to discuss what we believe are strategies that serve our community best and serve our underserved community of unsheltered residents best. That's who we are, what we are. So this is going to be a frank and open discussion, no matter what side you fall on in terms of your appreciation of the people who need shelter the most who don't have it. That's pretty much all that I have in terms of introduction. Again, really thank you all for being here and caring enough to be here. And I hope we hear from all of you and hear from all sides and all strategies and ideas about what we can do in concrete terms, in terms of direct action, in terms of things that call us to action from today and get things done today and move us forward into tomorrow. That's very important, extremely important. That's why we're all here. So I will introduce the next section of this. This is going to be, let's hear from those who live outside we introduce council representatives and the report on the camp and the potential eviction, which is scheduled to begin April 17th, although the council has established a deadline for dispersal of that camp by the 17th. They are going to begin to move people out and around on the camp. So you should know that this is an urgent situation. It's in what they call in the law an emergent, an exigent situation. So let's all keep that in mind. Alicia, do you have some folks to introduce us to?
I do.
Alright.
My name's Alicia Cool. To anybody that doesn't know, I've been acting kind of as the Ross Camp liaison, to sort of be an advocate, to be a person in the middle between the city and the people, just to help them get things and resources. And I brought some of them with me today. They wanted to come and speak with you all.
My name is Desiree Carroll. I've been at the Ross Camp for about, well, actually before Christmas, a little bit before Christmas, I'm one of the first ones there.
Can everybody hear? Okay.
I'm Crystal, on the camp council. I was, like Teddy, one of the original there. I did West, and I'm no longer there. I'm in shelter now, but I'm still, want to be part of their voice. They're my family, so.
Desiree, you want to explain what the camp council is?
It's a group of people that are acting in place of everybody else. And we talk for the rest of the group, the whole camp, and we discuss matters. We try to help out our neighbors and get them what they need, and we listen to people. Not everybody wants to talk.
So the camp council is the organizing body that has come together to try to bring about communication, dialogue, etc.
Yeah, I think it's like the way that you ask somebody to do something, and we are, we hear what you guys request, and we go, and make sure that, everything lines up.
Like, they're the ones that have helped me, like, in response to, like, the fires that happen. They're the first responders that let me know if there's something that's needed. And I've partnered with other people in the community that have helped provide resources, like the DSA, some organizations that have helped provide things like fire extinguishers. So we've helped address needs that have come about on our own in the camp. So that's another reason for the camp council. It's really beneficial that we've been able to have that. Santos?
Mayor Santos, I live there as well. What we're trying to do is just help one another have some type of peace there, so that way nobody's policing anybody, nobody's looking right over everybody's shoulder. If they have some problems, then they can just talk to us and we can address those issues.
My name is Sonny. I've been at the Ross Camp since probably 5 months before the River Street 1220 had closed up last year. And going in and out from Starbucks, and I'm back there again in the same tent where I never moved from the beginning of it, which would be like the beginning of this year. What I do, I just cleaned up, pick up those needles at least, whatever I can do.
Yeah.
Right now, my mind's not there to where I can function well as the importance with others, my family. So I can't even think about my kids right now, so they are my family. I'm substituting that, sacrificing even myself.
Yeah, and it's been a safe place, I do have to admit, for me to come home to and know that, so somebody can always hear, if there's ever a problem. There hasn't really been too many problems where, it's, been too serious, but if there is a problem, everybody is there to, protect you, so.
And I want to mention too that this is a representation of the council, but it actually is larger. We have about 8 to 12 people. They just couldn't all make it, for various reasons. There are barriers to having meetings outside of the camp environment. They can't leave their things. Not everybody has somebody to watch their things. So there are some barriers to everybody meeting outside of the Ross Camp. So we're lucky to have actually as many as we do have. And I also wanted to take a moment, since this is an open discussion, to invite you to ask questions. If anybody has a question, maybe if you can raise your hand and we can go around the room and you can, ask them a question. Desiree, Crystal, Santos, or Sunny, or you can ask all of them, however you want to do that. I saw a hand over here first, and I'll try to, go around the room. Tyler?
Just a quick one. I've heard a couple of people who are from the camp mention that they appreciate one thing at the camp more than that they've seen in other different spaces, and that's what they said it was community. But I've not spent any time there, so I'm not really sure what that entails or looks like. So I wondered if you could maybe describe something like that, so I can have a picture of it. Yeah.
Who would you like to answer that? Anybody, or?
I don't know. Whoever feels they have like the most to say about it, I guess.
Describe the sense of community there. What gives you the sense of community? Is that the right question?
Yeah, I've heard other people say that that's what they felt there, so I wanted to know what it looked like and how it
I think
manifested.
it's like any other neighborhood or whatever, you get to know your neighbors, and,
You guys.
so you get to know your neighbors, and it gets to be real close, we're just a neighborhood, and, we're just there in a tent.
Let me add a little to that, like if one of the ladies needs something, something, all you gotta do is just yell, hey, does anybody have the toilet paper? Somebody's gonna bring the toilet paper. Yeah, hey, I need some batteries. Somebody will come out with some batteries. It's like, does anybody have any water? And your neighbor's gonna give you, somebody way on the side saying, I got some. That's sense of community, that whenever you need something, all you gotta do is say something, and somebody's gonna come out. Somebody's gonna have it. I had a tick on my back, and I had it like the whole night, and I didn't know it was a tick, and then I started bothering me, so I'm like, I didn't have no tweezers, I can't reach my back. But as soon as I came out and said, hey, I got a tick on my back, I need somebody to take it out, they were there. And they got it
I
out.
think we'll just go around this way too. I saw a hand over here, Ian.
Yeah, I'm just curious is there any process to how people that are on the camp council, how they are chosen? I'm just curious, do you have elections or something, or it's just volunteer? Or?
No.
Yeah, kinda.
Well, I mean, we haven't had a kind of an election process. It's been open to everybody. What we do, we give flyers for the meetings. We've said whoever expresses a desire can join us and join our meetings. So it's open invitation. We haven't elected anyone.
And we had more people, but as the process, we kept going and it started getting more like us having to come here, be accountable. A few people didn't, they dropped out, so now we're left with the ones that are real serious.
Yeah, I think, I joined, and I'm still with the council because those are my family, that, there's a lot of good people out there that just need, a place, that don't have rent money. Not everybody out there doesn't have a job. There's people out there that have jobs, and believe it or not, like me, I paid, at one point, $1,100 rent. It was water, cable, trash, diapers, food, gas, phone, insurance, and the list went on. And I was a single mom working 2 jobs with a 2-year-old baby. And, if I can live in a tent, like somewhere, and be able to still work my job, which I worked, and have, able space, to save up some money so that I can afford, or maybe until I find somebody that could help me because I couldn't do it by myself.
I think I saw going around another question.
Yeah, excuse me, I'm losing my voice. When the fire marshal was summoned to speak before the city council a few weeks back, I was worried. It was a special session on the Ross Camp, and I was afraid that he was summoned to give evidence for a reason for closing the camp. But instead he got up there and said it was just some amazing things about working with you all and about how responsive you were and how you very quickly, remediated all the things that and there were just a few things. And I was just blown away by how complimentary he was to her. And I was wondering, does the city generally recognize that you all are the point of contact for the community? And are there other representatives of the city who are working with you on similar kinds of?
Well, we have standing meetings. We've had a standing meeting with the city council member, Drew Glover, and he comes out, meets with the people on the Ross Camp Council, and then he gives the updates back to, other people. And we've also met with Megan Bunch, who's the homeless assistant to the city. We've had Susie O'Hara out there. So yes, they recognize the Ross Camp Council. They actually said thank you to me a couple of times, for our work. So I do think that it's recognized in some respect.
Well, that's good to know.
In some ways or terms, with the fire chief, I am an individual who would start a fire out there. And just to get someone's attention and see and notify that in person and in public like that, it caused a lot of attention to where who would do something, who's gonna grab something. Like I need another friend out here who's either in that camp, but he couldn't be here. That support, you know what I mean? Because we're all together in this area, coming from either west, north, south, east, you know what I mean, from another town, and sent there, and individuals like that don't need to disrespect our community of what we're trying to do, but trying to take advantage and force is no way to handling it. So if there's an attention that needs to be drawn, or if a friend or a brother is laying down and you need to call AMR or ambulance, I'm gonna run to HSC and get that kit. But dealing with anything else, we do need those fire extinguishers in case. It would be a good support.
Yeah, we used the word.
Oh, you need
I
more?
got mine
Okay,
now.
got you.
Yeah,
I need to get a recent list. That's another thing that they help me do, is provide a recent list and things like of what they currently need. The city isn't providing everything, so we've had to work as a community of volunteers to get the things that they need. Cynthia, you had a question, and.
Yeah.
Okay.
Cynthia was the first.
Cynthia and I guess Ursula. We'll try, you guys know better than me.
Well, I thought we were just gonna go around in a circle.
Sure.
I thought I was next in that respect. I'm sorry, I forgot your name.
Sunny,
And next to Sunny.
Santos.
Santos. So I just want to ask one person, so I choose Santos. So, do you have running water there?
No,
Or
I don't.
all the water that's there has to be brought in?
Yeah, we bring all our water there.
Oh, that's rough.
And what's the trip is a lot of people, they take all the recycling and stuff like that, so they'll ask us, hey, can you put the recyclables aside? That's what we do. So it's a lot easier too, we don't have to do that like what we do out there.
It'd be nice to have running water. Yeah, would. At a camp, at an camp. That would be like number one.
Elise, do you have a question?
Yeah, several years back during the Occupy, there was a person leading a workshop and I really liked how it went. And she's pretty well known, but I don't want to say her name right now, but I was talking to her about the situation of just ever increasing numbers of people becoming homeless and how much dissent there was in all the communities. And I said, do you have any suggestions on what we might do? And at the time she suggested this fishbowl approach where she said usually what you do is you have the two opposing groups, one's on the outside circle and one's on the inside circle, and it's a nonviolent conversation. So it's meant to be really cool vibe, and people ask questions of each other. So house people might ask questions of homeless people, and then they switch. And then they switch it up. And at the time I was like, okay, maybe. But after seeing the Depot Park people come out to the last city council meeting, and just when we're facing the council, it just feels like we don't have any real opportunity like tonight to really talk like human beings. We're both on opposing sides and everybody's fiercely competing, at least I am, to make my point.
Do you have a question?
Yeah, so what I wonder is, I hope I explained it well, this fishbowl bowl idea where would you guys be willing to do something like that?
I think you're saying, so you guys have an opportunity here to also ask questions of others. So if you guys have a question that you want to ask anybody here, feel free to do so. that's a perfect opportunity to do that. I think we're going, or did anybody else go? Are we coming around?
Could we see a show of hands of people who want to ask questions, or, okay, so 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, the rest of us next.
I think you're next.
No,
You're
I'm
next.
gonna go
around the circle like
next.
this.
We're going around
So
the
she's
circle.
gonna come next.
She's next.
She's had her hand up for a while.
I've had it up for a long time.
Right.
Yeah, let her speak.
Okay.
Mama Desiree,
Yes.
what I saw and what I felt was that people were so well taken care of. The elderly, the children, the people who may have mental challenges. Is that correct?
Yeah.
And didn't you go on runs a lot of times to get food and things that people needed?
Yeah.
So that everybody had something?
Yeah, we all do that, yes.
That you all do that?
We do that, yes, we do.
Yeah.
That is so wonderful. I have to applaud you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. We had 2 dear friends that just died recently, and it wasn't due to overdose of drugs. These 2 people had heart conditions, and one of them died of exposure. And it had nothing to do with drugs, and they were real dear friends of ours.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm sorry I didn't know your name, but she's next.
One person at a time.
So,
kind of along those same lines, one of the most like polarizing articles I've read about the Ross Camp has been the articles about the deaths that have occurred there. And
About the what?
About the deaths that have occurred there. And y'all have been talking about like the sense of community that you have at the camp. I'm just wondering, like, if any of you had like personal relationships with these people, and what it felt like if you don't feel like talking to them.
Everybody hear the question?
No.
The question was, have they had any relationship with some of the people who have died?
I'll let you. She died in my bed. She just went to sleep, and she was smoking a cigarette, and I go, "You done with a cigarette?" She goes, "No, I'm not done." She put it out. 15 minutes later, she took a breath, she was gone. And I'm sitting there, we listen to music all the time, she's listening, and I'm like, okay. There was something outside, it was okay, and then we went back in, and my friend came in with us, and she goes, "You need to check her, she looks like she must have passed away." We checked her, and the ambulance guys, they took an hour and 15 minutes to try to revive her. 15 minutes.
That had
Yeah,
nothing to
it's
do with drugs.
Not at all.
Nothing
to do with drugs. It would have happened no matter where she would have been. Gentlemen, was her time.
My name is Gray, like the shade, G-R-E-Y. I see a lot of prejudices and ignorance in this county, even with groups, even with the city council, like thinking everybody's on drugs, which you're finding maybe a lot more people on drugs and not good people that do have a home. But my question is, since I have to get going, is how do we get a hold of you?
I got a phone. I got an email and a phone. Yeah, we don't got
I
a phone.
don't have a phone. You can catch me either
I can
downtown
give you
right
my
now,
card,
playing
and
music a lot.
You can reach all of them through me.
I have a question for the community as well. Is there any individual who would happen to have a backyard space available for safety being, or as well as even staying back there? I was a little kid and my parents raised me as well as jumping from hotel to motel, apartment, backyard, but still going to school and holding it together at a young age, like I see as the individuals in front of me. And my parents held it, and while we were in the backyard, it was with our parents, or our family members, an uncle, an aunt, another relative close to us. But we actually did work on something like labor work and landscaping with the maintenance facilities in the backyard as well, and neighborhood watch too included. I'm not all
People can
around.
start thinking about renting spaces maybe in their backyards or something. I mean, I don't know how well code enforcement and things like that look like that, but I mean, you know, these are solutions. We're also here to talk about solutions. So if anybody, you know, has an area that they can suggest for an encampment, something that you think would, go over well, we're here for solutions.
We have women warriors who are already helping
Yeah,
Crystal out.
take the last-
I mean, we have several men out there too as
You
well.
know, I do gotta say that, like, I'm more scared of the community than I am of the homeless people because of the situation that I was in. It was the first rain and I don't really know how to tarp very good and so everything got wet. And I don't have a car, so of course I had to get a shopping cart to push my stuff to the laundromat. And as I'm pushing my overloaded shopping cart on the levee, really embarrassing, already, and some guy, real clean cut, like, was on his bike and, he was a true biker, and, jumped off his bike and proceeded to cuss while he's staring at me in my eyes with this evil look of like hate, that profanities of how much he hates us. And I've never seen this guy in my life, and I wasn't trying to bother anybody, I'm always trying to clean up. I clean up from the Ross parking lot to the tannery. But he pushed my shopping cart over and threw all my stuff everywhere and got back on his bike and rode down and cussed at another guy and spit on him and rode by, like the evil look that was in his eyes is more scary than ever even running into any of these people,
So I'm not gonna lie, I am hoping that if there's anybody who has a negative heart in the room, that you hear things like this and would have, some change of heart. I am hoping to change a few hearts. I feel like Santa Cruz does need a moral revival around these type of issues. We need to handle these things with compassion. There are a lot of different levels of homelessness. We have disabled people who can't afford rent. So to categorize everybody and say, that you're just a terrible person or you must be mentally ill or on drugs because you can't afford the rent around here, I feel is very unfair. So, and with that being said, the lady over here had a question.
What are your top 3 threats? I mean, you just started talking about harassment, but
They freeze bottles of water and throw it at us and hit our legs and stuff like that. They yell profanity on the freeway.
Oh, even the children.
Oh, yeah.
That even the kids.
So we thought of getting a sign that said, if you're gonna support our community, go in home.
Yeah, I've been out there and I've witnessed people honking really loudly when they drive by, saying really horrible things out the window as they drive past the camp.
Try to hit us with the car.
I've been speaking obviously with a bunch of different people, hearing a lot of different stories. I've heard stories of people walking down Highway 9 being shot with paintballs, being hit with frozen water bottles. I've heard of people going and getting out of their car on Highway 9 and looking for camps, tearing up people's tents, yelling and screaming at them, threatening them. I've heard stories of, now I've heard of the story, a guy was sleeping and he was hit with a chunk of cement in his head and was actually ended up in the ICU. So I've heard everything from mild harassment to people could die, and I've actually heard of people dying out on their own and it taking several days for people to find them. So that's another reason and another concern that people have had in the Ross camp is if they're sick or if something were to happen to them, it's better to be in a community than out on your own. What if you died and somebody didn't find you for a while?
That happened to a couple of
I've heard that fear from people.
When we planned this, we did have an agenda, so I'm gonna have to move it along, but I'll take the people who have their hands up now, and then we're going to move to the next subject. You, and then Kevin. Yeah.
I'm just wondering if there's anyone has thought of this idea or made an attempt to have a website that could match, homeless people, because there's you asked about backyards, right, in town, but we live in a big county, and most of the lower rent stuff is out in the mountains. There's lots of space, once you get out of the city, and there's lots of, I'm just wondering if there was some way to connect people who have space with people who need somewhere to, temporarily, kind of I don't know if say a matchmaking service, but some kind of a service.
Stepping stone,
Yeah.
that's all.
Connect
That's
people.
all.
Adopt a friend.
Already got a job and it's amazing.
That's something I will look into because that's a great idea. I'm not sure how, unless like somebody was willing to maybe offer additional services if we're talking about like in the mountains, because people need to come into town a lot for, you know, life things.
Yeah.
So I don't, if we can somehow manage that, I think that would work, but,
Well, there's the bus, and then there was a van, I remember that, when there was that last camp, they had a van service, so.
So why don't we do Kevin, and then we'll move to
Can
the
I have
next
a direct
agenda.
response to him real quick?
No, because, well, I'll talk to the group. I mean.
Can I just make a quick?
Go ahead, go ahead.
Okay. A lot of people who are living outside very much need to be near services, number one. Number two, the buses have been cut to most of the poor people who live out in the mountains and so forth. So just wanting to add super quick, staying in touch with what happens to homeless people has a lot to do with staying in touch with services to poor people. And in Santa Cruz, there is a very deliberate attempt to cut bus services to poor people.
Yeah, a year or
Did
two.
you want to respond?
no.
Responding to the concern about city code enforcement and stuff about people living, a year or two or maybe 3 ago, the city very specifically relaxed the code enforcement groups in the face of the officially proclaimed housing crisis. So it's a much lower priority than so many other things right now.
That's good to know. So if anybody does want to offer something like that, if you want my card, I can help set you up with a person who you might be comfortable with.
I have a question. Why do they have to move the camp from Ross?
Well, we're going to be coming up to this.
Agenda.
Okay, Cynthia, and then that's it.
As far as code enforcement, they're lax towards landlords, not the tenants, not the people in the yards. They're relaxing the building code. They're not relaxing the laws that say you can't camp on your own property or in your own driveway. So I just want to be clear with what is being, what is lax by, what is more lax.
It was people living in spaces that were not up to code for habitation spaces.
Phil, what's next?
And
Right,
we used to
right,
sit down
that's
little
true.
Kevin's,
Right.
looking
That's
over
up to the
fences
yard.
and trying to find spaces.
So I think we should move to.
We're not doing that
Yeah,
anymore.
let's move to the next agenda.
So first, I want to again thank Alicia. It's like she came out of nowhere. She's done an incredible job of helping to organize. And you're going to hear from Alicia in a second when we talk about the lawsuit that we're involved in. So,
Thanks, Alicia.
and you guys for coming. We're really grateful. Some of you have been there, so you know that just for people to get out and to find someone who's going to watch their tent or whatever, it's a hassle. So we really are grateful for your coming. Okay, so Keith is now going to address an issue that is part of our action agenda. Keith?
Okay, so I'm Keith, and I'm one of the original people that started the First Food Mountain. And this agenda item is what to do about the potential eviction of Ross Camp. So as it currently stands, there is a proposal to start moving people out on the 10th of April and to clear out the camp by the 17th of April. And that part of the issue is that they don't really have any particular location suggested as to where people will go. And there's also a conflict about whether moving everyone to what was called the Boneyard, or maybe like what they proposed with Depot Park, would therefore justify the closing of Ross Camp because they are no longer in violation of a Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals case called Martin v. Boise. So the issue is that it does not look like, from what we're watching at City Council, that they're actually going to have a alternative for all the people living at Ross Camp, nor even beyond that, an alternative for the people that can't fit in Ross Camp that are living throughout our community. So there's been a number of proposals as to what to do. And one of the most common is to organize a march from Ross Camp of the people that are willing to go to leave there, to take another physical space and set up at least one or maybe two satellite transition camps that we would just do on our own. So
Brilliant.
one of the things that we're handing out is we're raising money for people who, so if you have money, not that, to donate to this GoFundMe so we can pay for fines and bail and things if people are arrested or ticketed at either Ross Camp when they come to evict people, or arrested at the transition camps that are set up as a result. So what we really need is a lot of support from people to join in this activity. The initial proposal, there's also been a proposal, and it's not clear how effective that would be, to actually all of us link arms when they come to try to get rid of people. But the problem that obviously that's happened in the past is everybody shows up to protest and they wait for everybody to burn out and leave, and then they come in the middle of the night while nobody's around. So that's one of the suggestions. So we've been scoping out areas for potential locations for alternative camps. And
For example, we recently...
yeah, and so Paul Lee has a suggestion that he's been encouraging, and this agenda item came about in part because of his proposing it at one of our last meetings. So, yeah, so would you, Paul, like to mention your possible proposal of where we would march to?
Well, the logical sequence for me is for the move to Pogonip. Pogonip is a 620-acre park. I helped save it with the Greenbelt Initiative 40 years ago. And they have a sanctioned homeless program there that's going in June, the Homeless Garden Project. They will break soil in June and establish their project there. You have a large area around the club, and I thought, well, why can't we restore the club and make that our center? It's just sitting there waiting to collapse, but it could be done. I've tried to get a hold of David Foster at Habitat for Humanity to get them to take on the project, and we would invite Jimmy Carter to come and drive the first nail. And then I get in touch with the Sackler family and try to get $10 million for drug rehabilitation because they're responsible for the opioid crisis. And they're doing such efforts now to try to make up for what they've done. So, you know, I'm a little hesitant about it all because I also have a Circle Trail project that goes through Pogonip. And I don't want to jeopardize that project or the homeless garden, but what the hell. Something's got to be done, and the Ross Camp has demonstrated that they had, the city has its head up its head. I mean, to have spent $90,000 a month at Boneyard, and without taking any regard for the self-administration that you guys can do, and that's my experience from having opened the first public shelter here in 1985, and then organizing 35 churches in the county to take in homeless one night a week. We never had any money. We never paid anybody anything, and it was all volunteer.
Yeah.
And we did it for, I don't know, 15, 20 years.
So we went to look at the Pogonip, and one of the issues was we were hoping we would be able to bring in equipment but they have like 6 locks on the gate.
Yeah, you do.
And so you would have, and I mean, you would be an effort to get through the gate. So you could walk, and we could walk everything through, and maybe that's what could happen.
That's what I do.
Another, there's a, so that is one proposal. There's actually a huge area along 9 that they've cleared so people can't sleep there, but that could potentially be taken over.
You mean
Yeah,
more
that's
road?
where I
Yeah,
have it.
before-
On the,
Yeah.
on the riverside? No,
On the-
on the opposite side of the river.
Yeah, and then, so there's that possibility. Then there was also potentially, over by the courthouse, maybe not on the benchlands exactly, but someplace over there. So there's like, the idea is to figure out a place where we can march and go set up an alternative camp. And this, but also, not with the idea that everybody at Ross leaves, but just that we can show that there's all other alternatives that can happen in the community if we ourselves organize, because I think the city council will never really ultimately come up with a plan.
And Paul, one other thing was, when we went out there, we all felt it was it's quite a distance. So ultimately, I think there's going to have to be people from the Ross Camp who decide, is Poganet realistic for them in terms of them getting there and getting their stuff there? It is an interesting site, and we're glad that we saw it, but at this point, we're going to have to leave it open to see what people think.
Some of them
Sunny.
left their.
You want me to call those people?
Would you like me to take stack?
Yeah. If you
Well,
would
I
do
saw
that.
Sunny, I saw Elise, and then I saw Crystal, and then I saw you, and you. Hi.
All right, so, at the last 2 city council meetings, one of the council members had said by law, section 8, there shouldn't be a homeless person being arrested or cited at 2 o'clock in the morning sleeping on an overhang. And we both got arrested. I got arrested with a female. A month later, she was found pregnant. But now I went to court, just recently got out of court, and I have to stay off the premises from where I got arrested for a whole year. And they try to give me community service with the fines and fees as well too, to still stay in the community. Being under it and giving us tickets, we got arrested, and now we still have a whole year of probation. I'm not off probation until 2022. For all the minor things that I've been given or arrested or cited for. And with the council's law and justice right there, I'm to show you right now, I'm supposed to clean up the community still. This little thing. And trying to still see, or find out another place to stay. While everything is going on around, including the race as well. I mean, I thought this was one community that we could all get along in. It's strong. I know it is. I know it within my heart. So we need to help each other as well. And criticizing is hurting. It's very hurting.
If one bad cop, they're all bad cops, you know, if one bad homeless person, we're all bad homeless people, we're not.
Okay, so Elise is next, and then Crystal?
Yeah, actually,
With you?
I'm
sorry, and then Brent.
I'm writing it down. Yeah, in response, I kind of want to say something to what you're approaching, Keith, which is, when the camp is dissolved, what are we going to do? I really feel like one of the lead-up actions that we all need to take is to start to voice the fact that the dignity of homeless people at the camp is being completely trashed. And we need to do this in places that are visible, not just city council. So we need letters to the editor, to the Good Times. We also need to talk about the hate and the harassment We also need to talk about just the racism. So all these things, the fact that so many of the people who are homeless are so vulnerable. I've met mothers whose husbands went to jail. This is one mother whose son was schizophrenic. At the shelter, they had a really hard time housing the son with the mother. Eventually, he was hit in the big intersection by Route 1. I could just go on and on about the people I've met. I could talk about the staff who would bring their own pit bull, very threatening in the morning while people were trying to get breakfast. I could talk about the lack of staff to be able sometimes to just follow rules so that we could have some consistency. So personally, I totally understand why people want to stay outside and have community. I also want to just say there's a long history here that's so accessible. It's in the library basement. You can talk to James Beard, the library director. How about Mike Rockin saying when we had the peace camp at the county building in 2010 that homeless people should all go hide. That's what homeless people should do. You should go hide. Meanwhile, we are losing housing, and this is the last thing I'll say, sorry to be long-winded. Over 70% of homeless people in 2014, according to Smart Solutions, Don Lane's thing, were born or grew up here in Santa Cruz. These are displaced people to a large extent, not all, but many of the people grew up here or were born here and have been priced out. They can't live here, and we don't even have discussions of low-income housing at the city council meeting, ever. So I just think that we need to represent ourselves outside in the venues that matter, and I would really appreciate it if everybody here would take it upon themselves just to write a few sentences to the Good Times or to the Sentinel, and so that we could get published.
Crystal?
Wow, okay, sorry, I totally lost, track of what I was gonna say, but I think that, right now we are, we're as homeless people.
Gotcha.
Yeah, okay.
Cynthia, she's waiting for you.
Cynthia, Crystal passed next.
Oh, so next is Kevin.
Oh, yeah, excuse me,
You can come back to you if you remember.
oh, yeah, right, so I don't understand why a handful of locks on a gate are taking the pogo nip off the table.
We haven't taken it off the table.
Oh, yeah, that's what
I mean, what if the locks
We're
disappeared the night before the event?
Kevin, we haven't taken it off the table. We're only saying that logistically, it's gonna be a hard thing for us to occupy.
Well, what I'm saying is, what if the locks go away the night before?
Yeah.
If the locks go away, that's a big change. But again, it's also gonna be up to the community to decide that that place is close enough that people can get to it easily.
I'm saying that a lot of the people that are at the Ross Camp came from the Poconos.
Yeah.
You know, that's where we came from, because we got kicked out of the Poconos, we went to the Ross Camp.
Actually, I got burned out of recon fire, that's where I was at.
I think that should be the project.
You know, so we are already familiar with that area. And
Well, it's possible we went to the wrong site, so maybe Paul can maybe show us where to go. Anyway.
That's lack of respect. Please let her finish.
Yeah.
Don't interrupt. Thank you. Crystal.
Yeah, you know, I think all of us, or as a community, could probably, pretty sure we could build our own shed if we needed, you know what I mean?
That's where we live.
Pretty creative, you know, when we get out there.
Yeah, and most of us, we're not trying to build a house out there, we're just trying to survive and be comfortable, you know? We're not trying to go build a home
And be out of sight,
you know, but, you know, out of sight, out of mind, but still, you know, we wanna be safe.
Okay, Brent is next. Are you done?
Yeah, oh yes.
I wish we had the community that could really anchor a move protest occupation camp. That would require really strong affinity groups and really strong activists. And I've been over the last 20 years watching protest camp after protest camp, who's mostly silent is Robert Norris, who's been to nearly all of them. I was at Peace Camp 2010, did battle with police there. I did battle at Occupy Santa Cruz at the door. 4 years of fighting felony charges for that. I watched Peace Camp 2010, I'm sorry, Freedom Sleepers. What I said then, I'll say now. What is the efficacy? We're not talking about this as a strategy or as a tactic. How many arrests, how many citations were written at Freedom Sleepers? I assert over 100, over several hundreds over the couple of years, and there was no court support. What we have often is activists leading the homeless population into a police line, and then they go home and go to sleep. They said they would stay up, and they said they would get the citations. I watched Steve Plage himself run to the sidewalk 10 weeks in a row before we challenged him to get his citation at first. So what I'm not trying to be an acerbic or a protest voice here. I finally had to move out of the protest community and build some programs. But I really do want to see, with this population that I love and I'm from it, a group of people who really could, like what you need to do, we need something on the board first before we talk about this. Porta potties, what are we going to do with our poop? What are we going to do with our garbage? What rules of agreements? Of course it would come out of the community, but also we need a strong, the community also, actually doesn't have that sense of savvy for them to really face the, no disrespect, to really face the police. So let me finish my thought. I'll wind it up here. So I advocate for transitional encampments. Finally, I've seen dozens of them over many years. I'm not talking about that. But if we are really going to do a protest camp and put our most vulnerable population on the march and then facing cops, let's really talk about what that is and looks like. And the people who did the last one, let's talk about what actually happened. I'm not hearing that. So this is happening in a vacuum.
Sarah's going to bring you a form. We've worked on part of that.
I was here.
As far as where we're going to get porta potties, we haven't gotten.
No, but I'm talking about the efficacy. Let's have a success report about Freedom Sleepers from the people who are here. They're the people in this room. They're all around. Let's hear about that before we talk about doing another one. Because I say you're leading sheep to the slaughter yet again, and it shows really you care more about this as a political football than actually the people you say you care about. The end.
Okay, all right, so that was, now we're gonna stay on stack, right? So we had Ernestina, and then Ursula, and then I see some more hands, I'll get you to. We've got Ernestina, Ursula, we've got Desiree after that, we've got Sunny, Lisa, we've got Alicia, and then we've got James.
And while I'm going to pass around a list, and you can put your name, phone number, and email of people that are interested in participating in a direct action.
I have been in this community for about 25 years now. And in that period of time, I have seen camps going, coming and going. But this is the first time I have seen so many people in one single place. And I think that's the big difference and that's the power that you have right now. The fact that you are visible, because I was homeless 2 times in my life, that we try to be invisible when we are in the streets, just to avoid harassment, just to avoid being targeted and all that kind of things. But this time it's different because you are together, and that's what is the strength. Sending you guys to the Power Nip is up to you, but I would say no. I would prefer to go to the county building because then it's more visible. Or if you want to stay there, let's stay there. I think that we can organize the community to surround you and protect you.
That's fine, but there's no privacy.
I know.
People go, and there was a big truck that stopped in the middle of the highway, a big semi in the middle of the highway, okay? And honked his horn forever, and did not pull away until he had the whole, we have to sleep too.
I know.
I know.
So
that is so rude.
Then the county building, because it's surrounded by all the grass area and the buildings, so they cannot get that close to you. But that, the only thing I wanna say, so once again, I will respect whatever your decision is. The only thing I wanna say is that your strength is in the numbers.
Believe me, when we do move to the next spot, we are gonna move. And we do have people ready to do
And
it.
it's not, I just want everybody to know, it's not for political show, it's for necessity. Where are the people, if they close the camp, where are the people they're going to go? It's not a
It's
political
not safe
show.
out there for all
And
of
when
us
it
to
comes
be.
time, I do have an RV, but when it comes time, I'll be right next to my sister Desiree. And if they
Me too.
arrest me, they arrest me. But, you know, it's not a political show, this is a necessity. We have people that need a shelter. We can't just ignore them and expect that they're just gonna separate and go back into areas where they're going to be in danger, put in danger.
And furthermore, you know, I challenge anyone in here who is not 3 months away from being in the streets. What happens if you get sick? What happens if you stop your work? You are gonna be there too. So we are all in the same boat.
Ursula's next.
I want to talk about dusk to dawn and how I think that it's a horrible thing to do to people. Is to have them have to leave at dawn, take all of their stuff with them. To go where?
Yeah, that's right,
Hang
where?
out
Where?
at parks.
Where?
So they can do double heavy.
And then you move along during the
And
day.
you'd have to take everything
Yeah,
with
can't
you.
get a job.
And then you put
Because
it
your homeless,
back
they don't wanna give you a job.
at nighttime. Try putting up a tent at night. I mean, that's
So
no
that
easy
McDonald's be told
task.
to move along.
My
It's hard.
goodness
It's
sakes,
very
how
hard.
in the world can anybody think that that's decent human?
It's terrible.
It's terrible. Okay, I'm done.
I'd like to change here, actually,
Yes,
there's
please.
some of the community members and some people who are actually over there at that campment who actually do take the time to either going through the garbage and getting those needles out, hazmats out, of the complaints that many folks were getting of what was being seen just in that area though, family members, and the danger and the outcome. Well, as a same person that these guys were doing on their own time, I do it on my time too as well. And it's not just at that encampment. It's at our
everywhere.
beach, it's everywhere.
Yes.
And no matter what, either city, state, or place, it's everywhere. And keeping it as our community, and this is our backyard, our pool at the beach, we have to put all our effort into it. We have to have those safety hazards trainings for employees here as well. Metro station, security services, security, first alarm, rangers, the park and recreation places, either a box or those little containers that could actually carry one of a hazmat point coming from the beach, the boardwalk, and we have it where tourists come here, family members, and it's so close that a child could just walk down the stairs instead. That's all it takes for either one of us.
Desiree,
I'm the same with, I have the same with Sunny, you know, we need to have more, so that there's containers so that we can pick them up, because they're carrying those things all the way across, all the way back to Ross, you know. It's a long way to, and I don't even use needles, I don't even touch them, but I pick them up, because I'm a mother too.
So I think some more resources, but
Yeah.
they'll take care of that problem as well, a little bit more, maybe harm
Yeah, we should
reduction.
get you,
I'll make a note of
we can
that.
get
Yeah.
you boxes.
Okay, Lisa's next.
My name is Lisa. I'm a community member and kind of new to social action for this cause. I was homeless when I was younger. I am a social worker. I trained with Homeless Persons Health Project. I really liked their support of the community. And I would imagine they're still out and kind of hopefully taking support of it all. People doing outreach.
Yeah.
Offering services.
Yeah.
So,
That's
what I would, just as a new person, I'm kind of, I don't know, I was really hopeful when I saw the camp start up because it was visible, and I thought, you know, wow, there's a legal place for people to be. And I think also I really feel it's important for mental health stability and people's families to just be able to stay somewhere permanent, to not have to leave every morning. And I want to get more involved socially and politically, and I started volunteering with Food Not Bombs just a couple weeks ago because a friend of mine is doing it. And I was trying to do some research online about what's going on and why is the encampment being threatened and was it legal to begin with. And it was really hard for me to find any facts online. Like everything through the Sentinel, I had to sign up and pay to see the articles, and I didn't want to do that. And so I don't understand really, and I'm here to learn more and to see how I can support. But one, like the idea of going to people's backyards. There's a ton of rich people around. There's people with backyards, and not all of them are negative, you know. And so I would like to see more outreach. And, you know, I could be an advocate for like hooking up with my friends and there's friends of friends and spreading the word and more articles in the papers. And also, like, I'm down. I think people would be down to go on this march and go wherever, and I think that's temporary. It's a temporary thing, but ultimately, I think there needs to be political action to make it legal to freaking be able to sleep on our streets, right? So whatever I can do, I don't have a great, you know, I will be arrested. I'll go on the march, I'll help you spread tarps. Thank you.
I'm just doing staff. I'm not making those decisions.
Can I do a quick direct response?
Are you in the stack?
I'm not making decisions.
You're the facilitator.
There's still a lot of, I'd like to respond too, and there's other people who haven't had a chance, so I think we should continue going.
So we got Alicia, and then I have James and Taylor. Tyler, sorry.
And Cynthia, I do,
Okay, and then Phil.
Can I respond to what she was saying?
In respect to keep it going, I'll pass my turn so that everybody gets a chance. I'll do my turn.
I didn't really want that, but I was just kind of questioning, you know, like all of a sudden, you know, we've been there since before Christmas and all of a sudden we're getting services and then we're getting shut down. You know, we finally got to talk to the fire chief and he made a design of what he needed, you know, for the codes. And we, you know, did it right, and everybody had went around and made sure that, you know, it was maybe not exactly to the exact, but things were taken care of. And requests were made, you know, and requests were, we got them done. And wondering why would you even come in and have us do the fire road and clear all this stuff out if you're just gonna kick us out? Why would you be planning on putting a water tank, you know, or saying that you're gonna put, you know, you need that space cleared because you're gonna do this, and then be kicked out, when you see us clearly try to make an effort to prove everybody wrong, because everybody knows or expects us to fail. So we want, you know, and we're working on a community that wants to prove everybody wrong. You know, and so we're working on cleaning it up and getting all the trash, you know, and making sure that we pull the garbage cans down so that the people that are lazy and don't, you know, because not everybody is, you know, but, you know, everybody needs a chance, you know what I mean? I needed a lot of them, you know, and I still do. And, but, you know, it's like, why all of a sudden, you know, you get the services and you're trying to work with us, but then it's like, you're like,
And you get kicked out.
sorry, I just, you know.
Well, and we've asked the city, just so everybody knows, I feel like everyone should know that if, we're also doing an injunction to try to stop the closure of the Ross Camp. And we put a lot of work and effort into that. Some of the people that you see here are also plaintiffs in that. But if that is unsuccessful, obviously we do need to find an alternative for the people living there, so.
we're gonna come back to that.
That'll be
on
all.
the agenda.
But we have asked the city for help in this, so we're not just doing it on our own, we have asked for support.
All right, next we have James, then we have Tyler, then Phil, and Sarah.
Reggie.
I'm Reggie, and then Sarah. James.
Yeah, okay, so, as far as needles, everybody should just be carrying a screw top bottle. You know, you throw the shit in there, screw the lid on, no problem. You know.
Can you speak louder?
Yeah, just so far as needles, everyone, you know, just carry a screw top bottle. And then you can put them in there, it's safe, you screw the lid on.
It'd be nice if they do that.
Yes, it would be
That'd
great.
be very nice.
Yeah. If people are gonna move out into the Pogo Nip, so this winter, I've been a Pogo Nip resident for 4 years. I built a little tarpy out there, been confronted by rangers, but I have a clean camp. Okay, now, after this most recent exodus, or kick out, whatever, there's a literal ton of trash out there. Top of the hill, down the hill, people will maybe bag up their stuff, but then the coyotes come up, tear it up, and it gets spread everywhere. I've been hauling that out. That's my rent to the woods.
Yeah,
You
I
know.
do it too.
Thank you. Yeah, that's my home. And one of the things is, if there's a bunch of people out there, they're gonna be shitting.
That's right.
So, dig, I don't see people digging holes. I just think it's a terrible place for a big encampment. Unless there's like a setup, like a serious routine,
That's what
where
we're
every
trying to
day.
do. That's what we're trying to do, we're not here.
That's obvious.
Oh, yeah, but it's not obvious for some.
I live down there.
We have a plan.
It's an emergent state.
All right, so we're gonna get to the
And-
plan, and then when do we want to stop this item and get to the next item?
We have 2 or 3 more people, and then we should go to the next item.
We've got
Okay,
5
and
more
so-
people, so do you want to?
5 more people.
Okay, so we're gonna close this
Wait,
back
you-
after,
James, a little bit more.
Yes, that.
Yeah, you-
No,
Sarah.
A little bit, I got a little bit more to talk about. I've got a very short
He's
list.
not done yet.
Yeah,
Oh,
I
sorry.
have a very short list.
Pardon me, a bunch of people interrupted you and I thought you were done.
Oh, no, yeah, I hear you. I've been in consensus circles before. So the primary thing, I think, to really make any changes is that people just need to put pressure on their friends. If you want change, if you want anything to happen, you gotta put pressure on your friends. You gotta remind them, put your frickin' needle in a bottle.
Be accountable.
Make sure yes, exactly. And pick up the trash, because that's why they hate us.
That's right.
They treat us like animals for a reason.
That is so true. I pick up trash and.
I'm not pointing any fingers, and we don't even need to respond to this. This is an issue, and this is just a thing.
I'm just saying that.
And also, is there an attorney? Are there any attorneys? I dealt with a 300-person lawsuit up in Humboldt County with the tree sits. 350 people were arrested, and we created a legal clinic in order to deal with the strategic lawsuit against public participation. I could operate partially as a paralegal if there's anything that goes on.
We have that on the agenda.
Okay, great.
That's the next agenda item.
Okay, cool. And I'm not a professional, but I know some stuff. And I guess that's about it.
Thank you. Tyler, you're next.
Okay, yeah, so, thank you. So I'm not like a long-time resident of this community. I've been here for a while, and I'm kind of like throwing myself into different efforts by people doing different things in the community. And one thing that I get the sense is that a lot of people here really do like this feeling of community and believe in the power of it, and I think that's what people really think of Santa Cruz, this idea of community. I think that's probably why there's so many people here right now, tonight, because issues hopefully can be solved when a lot of people get together. So I also want to maybe just sort of take this moment and then bring it over to somewhere where community is just starting to develop, because there's people in a large encampment, and it's taking a while, just like as if everyone here were transplanted into a new place, and you don't really trust each other, but you start to develop a sense and an idea of what it means to be inside of a place and live together. So even though I think Brent had the right idea, and I shouldn't even call him out, because it's something that people have been saying a lot, that there are issues when you're trying to have a lot of people all in one place. Things get messy, things get a little dirty. But the more time you give it, potentially it's an investment in what could be something like you have maybe in Santa Cruz today. So that's something to think about, just in the long term.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. And next we have Phil.
I want to respond to you and thank you for your comments, because one of the things that we hoped was going to come out of this was people like you who want to step forward. So you're sitting next to Food on Bond, Conscience in Action, HUF. We'd love to have you involved. I also want to say that I also agree that what Brent said is really important. We do need to be very conscious of what we're about to do and to give it as much consideration as possible. On the other hand, we also need to act. We are committed, this group is called Conscience and Action. So we both need conscience and action. And that's why we're handing that sign up. So those of you who want to participate in a possible action to occupy a camp, that's one of the things that we're seriously considering. So, and I just also want to say, I thought maybe we'd get 25 people here.
Right.
I'm just blown away that so many people from the community came, and we really are grateful, and it makes us feel a lot better.
Thank you. And the amount of people at the Ross Camp and the little bit of services that have been provided by the city, I don't actually think that they're doing that bad, all things considered.
And Reggie is next.
Very cool.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, I feel like, I've only been here for 5 years, but I feel like something was kind of transformed in the last couple of years where I'm a member of DSA and I've been going to Ross Camp, and DSA has grown like 3 or 4 times very quickly. In Salinas, there was a recent report with Democratic Socialists of America. In Salinas, there was a report recently that 40% of elementary school children are part of homeless families. And what I think is happening is we're at this moment in time where so many people are being affected. Like people that aren't usually like hitting these types of barriers are all getting like really pulled in. And it's building empathy, and then like you're getting these groups that are ramping up, and I think there's a lot of like potential right now.
Now, let me take a moment to thank the DSA. They've been the bomb. They've been out there many times, provided all kinds of stuff for the camp. They have been fantastic.
And on that note too, we have people at the Ross Camp and people who are in tents and on the street. They're not the only homeless people. As you were saying, we have people who are living in RVs, people who are living in vehicles, vans. There's a hidden homeless population as well that's afraid of stigma. They're not out in the open. I mean, a lot of people hide it.
Sarah, and then I'm next, and then we can close that.
And then we'll go to the next agenda, okay?
I've actually given this a lot of thought. Some of you have known I've been talking for months about what are we going to do when the Ross Camp closed. And I've studied a little bit of Martin versus Boise, and I think to address Brent's problem is we keep it on public property that doesn't protect you. But if we can, there's a lot of land, I don't remember the address offhand, but they're leasing it to the Metro, and it's over by HPHB. And so that might not be a viable option, but anything on public land will not be leading then to problems, because one of the things the city council, I don't understand why, spaced out the fact that the language in Martin versus Boise means shelter beds are inside. It does not include these transitional encampments, these day programs. It's not going to get them out of this loophole anyway. They're just wasting as much money as they can so they don't have to solve the problem. So I can get you that address, or I've been taking this very seriously.
If somebody had a piece of private land, that would be ideal, but we've obviously been waiting and hoping someone would come forth, but it hasn't happened yet.
Yeah, so I've given this a lot of thought too, and you remember I mentioned that exact thing, you know. So I'm totally willing to help and get you that address and see if that's a viable option.
All right, so we're going to close this agenda item and go on to the next one. And I guess I just want to say that at least 1,000 homeless people in Santa Cruz. The most at Ross Camp is like 200, 250. They're not, representative of everyone, but they're a big chunk of it. But there's a lot of people out there in their cars and just hiding. And we I hope that we can figure out a way to also contact other folks too. But this discussion is about the Ross Camp. But just to put the perspective, and so the city's not going to ever be able to provide enough shelter beds for 1,000 people. They're just not. So I don't see how, it just depends on how the court addresses this, Martin versus Boise, and if they come down on the side of the cities that are really not going to ever be able to provide enough shelter, or if they come down basically on the side of homeless people for the right to exist. That's what we're waiting to find out with the appeal.
Point of clarity, there's two lists here. Are they the same? Or is there
The one is for the Resource Center for Nonviolence, and the other, that's that one. And then the other one is for the direct action.
So they're
They're
different.
two different lists.
We're at the Resource Center for Nonviolence.
Yeah, what's the difference? What's the Resource Center for Nonviolence list for?
That was one I found on the table. And I needed a clipboard. So I took a clipboard with the resource, but I didn't want to X out the Resource Center for Nonviolence potential mailing list.
That's very polite.
So
it's all the same list.
The resource has allowed us to use this gratis. So, I'm glad that you told me. Okay.
Oh, and one last thing, I did want to say, I agree with Ernestina that I think, if we're gonna claim some land, it should be closer to a more, you're gonna have to cross that freeway if you're on Pogonip. I don't think that's right. I mean, I think it should be more like what Ernestina said, right? Downtown.
Okay.
Yeah, we have to do the shelter.
We'll discuss location
There's a
more,
lot of
I
different
think.
people, there's disabled people too.
We have a lot
There's old
of
people too, they don't need to
consideration.
cross the freeway.
Take care of it.
Okay, we have another issue that we've already mentioned, that is that we're involved in supporting the camp with a federal case, suit. And what's the latest with Anthony's, did Anthony write a statement for us or not? And do you want to explain that? And then also, where's the representative from the union? Would you also tell people what the union is?
Okay.
Beautiful.
Anthony he's been really busy, so he didn't write me a statement.
Tell people who Anthony is.
Anthony Prince is the attorney for the California Homeless Union. And he's not representing, but he has been helping and advising. So we have put together, with the help of him and the plaintiffs here, we've put together an injunction, which is basically a restraining order to stop them from being able to close the Ross Camp. Because they don't have adequate shelter for all of the people there. And it would put them at greater risk of harm if they were to disband from there and go and camp on their own without adequate shelter beds. So we've put together that, and it's going to be filed. We've included a bunch of things that go with an injunction. So we're hoping that it will be successful. You never know. Things like that, you never know which way that it will go. At the very least, it creates a dialogue and it lets the city know that we are going to stand up for our rights. This is only the beginning. And it's going to be filed, I believe, on either Friday or Monday. And it is to be determined as far as that's why we also need to have solutions for a backup plan.
And where will it be filed?
It's going to be filed in San Jose because that's the closest federal court.
So, I could add something to that. We'll be having a meeting tomorrow with Anthony Prince and representatives from the Northern California ACLU and their legal staff. It is possible at some point the ACLU may actually give some legal support or join in to a lawsuit, presuming it's filed and heard. So we'll find more about that tomorrow, but at least we're getting the ACLU to move a little bit further down the road on homelessness than they have, so.
And that's the reason it hasn't been filed yet, because we want to give them, the big attorneys, a chance to take a look at it and, add to it, work with us on it, so.
Is this on the subject?
Yeah, and then also the fraternity or that pre-law fraternity at the university has agreed to provide their support and energy to helping make this injunction a reality and to provide the additional evidence to support the case.
Here? Yeah? Sweet. Do you want to say something about the union?
Okay,
Introduce yourself.
okay, let's see if I can actually be director and actor at the same time. If it'll stay still. So my name's Wes. I'm a homeless advocate, president of Salinas Monterey County Homeless Union. There was a homeless union, a national union of homeless back in the 90s. Started in Philadelphia and gained up to about 35,000 members throughout the nation. We're trying to start that up right now, actually. So back on the East Coast, Rochester, New York, Boston, Massachusetts, a couple other places, we're trying to coalesce a new nationwide. Homelessness is a civil rights movement of our era. So that's we're trying to reconglomerate and coalesce this movement and with all these people here, and we started with one in Marysville. There's set in Fresno, Paradise, a campfire. So now even homeowners are homeless, and PG&E they're not responsible for anything. It's weird, but it's people power.
What happened in Marysville?
Marysville had a lawsuit. They cleared out an entire. It was called Hollywood, and they had like a library. They had 400 or 500 people out there, and they didn't notice. And so now there's a pending lawsuit, and it's going forward.
They didn't give them a notice?
Correct. No proper notice, and they destroyed everything on top of that. So Anthony Prince is also helping with a lawsuit for that one. And, it's just been building momentum, and it's about time, people over profit. It's time to treat people like people. And
Is it in Oakland as well?
We've gone in and out with that one, and I don't know how active it is, but this guy, Nino, he's been really good with the same kind of issue of just a clean, organized campsite, people and trash in his place, transitional camps. I've been trying to push Brent's projects quite a bit, because that is, doesn't matter how little, how much, how clean, how dirty, you're there, and you need permission to be somewhere, and that's really the driving force of this. We're trying to do a state ordinance. We're attacking Darrell Steinberg. He's the chair of the Commission on Homelessness in the state, appointed by Gavin Newsom, so I guess we're targeting him as well. They're really big about spending money, but not about the underpinning of the 95% of people who are not going to get any help from those services. They're going to get the opposite effect. If you're not giving me money, I'm going to make money off of you. I'm going to put you in jail. I'm going to make money that way. And, feel good doing it. It is weird.
What's his name again, Wes? Darrell who?
Darrell Steinberg.
Steinberg.
He's now the mayor of Sacramento, but he was a very powerful congressman assemblyman for a long time, or state senator.
Can you talk about that money thing? Because we had 10 million come to our community,
Dude.
actually now.
Right,
Talk
well.
Just a little bit about what happens with the money.
So as far as I know, in my county, in this county, everybody has a continuum of care. There's like a billion or more dollars being distributed throughout all the continuums of care. So we got 58 counties, or 56, and we got like 32 continuum of cares. My county, or my continuum of care portion, is getting $12 million, and everybody's getting some money. That'll get split out, and is done between the electeds and the service providers. So the actual stakeholders, the people who are actually affected supposedly getting services. They're not included in any of the decision making of the hungry hippo of, who's gonna get money to do what. And yet the enforcement, and that's the big key that we're worried about right now is Martin versus Boise. You cannot enforce if you don't have sufficient shelter space. Yet they do it, and they'll use it as a false and weak legal pretext to do like a stop and frisk. And, it's just unconstitutional on its face, unconstitutional as applied. It's selective enforcement, it's color of authority, it's civil rights, it's human rights. I mean, it's kind of where we're going with it.
Okay, anybody else want to comment? I think that
I'd like to.
Keith, Robert, and I, Steve, all want to thank Anthony for stepping in and helping us. And as Steve just said, there is a meeting tomorrow, so, but we...
Did James want to go, you want to go to that meeting, or?
So I'm not
You wanted to say
stop
something.
Until you guys are
I just wanted
done,
to
okay,
say
so let me know when to take
Yeah,
that.
he was just about to raise his hand, I thought he might be asking that.
Just go.
Yeah, well, I think that what's going on with the city is while they get paid while the problem persists. If they fix the problem, they won't be getting paid. That's what's up with the city.
Same thing, Daryl.
Yeah, the fact that we're going to get a percentage of the money that we have allocated by ballot in the last election, that is a fact. The amount of money is for each county is already determined. It's, I think, the most critical thing for us to do, along with whatever action we take, including the possibility of remaining at the camp that has been established, and insisting that the county and the city provide proper services and administration in cooperation. I think number one is that happen in cooperation with self-governance within the established camp. Second thing is that as we're working on these legal options and educating ourselves and so on, that we need to create the vehicle by which we, meaning those most affected, self-governing, are at the table. And I think if we have workable, viable plans for the way to live together and the vehicle by which we make decisions and provide that accountability, we'll be in a very strong position vis-a-vis the money that is allocated, some for low-income housing, some for affordable housing, but some for transitional housing and temporary housing to address the problems specifically that we're here for. So I really think, well, I won't repeat myself.
I do need to make an announcement. We do have a reporter from the Sentinel here tonight, and I didn't realize that until just now, but just so you know.
Sitting right back.
Very cool.
So, anybody, are we about done with this issue? You had your hand up.
Well, I was
And then
gonna respond, that on the city council meeting of the 19th, there was one city council member who was opposed completely to self-governance. And that was, if you rewatch that was a big.
Cynthia Matthews.
Yeah.
What a surprise.
And he would say Mapitone, which means what's the surprise?
Hopefully the progressive side of the city council will overrule that,
If
We
you
just
don't read
need
the
to count
mail,
to four.
they might.
Hoping.
The three and the cop.
I encourage everyone to write an email in support of a self-governed encampment. Say that that's where you would like the funds and resources to be immediately allocated to.
And that's why it's so important, as I think Denise, to
It's the least Elise.
I know, I
Elise,
grew up
after
all
5
the
years,
sorry,
it's
Elise. Elise said, it's so important for us to communicate with those people in positions of power. We should definitely be contacting Drew and supporting him and the others who hopefully are going to vote the right way, because there's no guarantee.
He's been really nice too.
And you can look for updates. I have a Facebook page, Santa Cruz County Homeless Advocates. I post things about the Ross Camp and updates. I post things like, I encourage everyone to write a letter to city council. I include helpful language that you can write your own. It's just a good source to go to and see updates about what's going on and encouraging things you can do to help out.
And the name again is?
Santa Cruz County Homeless Advocates.
Santa Cruz County Homeless Advocates. That's a really great Facebook page, and you can find the email to cut and paste.
A lot of us are on there too.
Robert Norris.
Okay, we have two other, we have,
First of all, I don't think you should have any confidence at all in the city council. I disagree with Daryl. I don't think that you should have any particular confidence in the financial generosity of these nonprofit donations to different groups. But what we're doing here is hoping to support a community that's actually acting in a broader community that is supported. And that's why this whole meeting is taking place, and that's what the Ross Camp is to some extent. It didn't happen because the city council voted for a Ross Camp. That's not what happened. And they're going to try to close it on the 17th, probably, and on the 10th beginning. That's not much time. Now, there's a council meeting on the 9th where you'll have a mass outflowing of next-door neighbor bigots coming into the meeting, as they have for the last 2 meetings. That doesn't mean you shouldn't go. It doesn't mean you shouldn't write the council. It doesn't mean you shouldn't support letters to Drew Glover, who's now worried about being accused of being a sexist and all that stuff, and is backing away from a lot of things because of that. But still, I think you need to support these people. But it's the support that's happening here that counts. And in the days that follow, as the Ross Camp Council decides to do what it's going to do, and as the injunction moves forward, that's what counts. And that's why I'm at this meeting.
My point number one. I have a little stack going on here.
We wondered
Like,
about that.
I have Ernestina, Reggie, Keith. Can we do that? Right.
I agree with Robert that the city council is as good as the pressure that you put on it. Otherwise, whoever barks louder is going to be the way how they are going to go. Okay, and I just want to remind everybody that tomorrow there is meeting with Drew Glover at the Depot Park, and I think it's at 7?
6 p.m.
6
6
p.m.
p.m.
6 p.m.
Everybody
So
should go to that.
everybody should be there.
Why wasn't I here?
Time for action.
And April 9th is a good city council meeting, because we've kind of been told by the opposition, a lot of people showing up with their kids saying that they're afraid of homeless people, a lot of people, just wanting to spread the homeless people are on drugs agenda.
So please come with your children.
Yes.
Bring your children.
Say your point of view, if you're feeling what we have to say and you agree, come and say that. It's good to have that side heard too.
I'll be
Very
there with my
important.
grandchildren.
I got Reggie, Keith, Elise. Well, let me bump you up because you haven't spoken yet.
Sorry, expecting it. So I just want to say, I'm with DSA. If you want to come out Sunday mornings, we go out to the camp. And I think that the reason why I like DSA's approach to this is that we are looking at tenant right advocacy and conceiving tenants as anybody who's not in control of their own housing. That's right. So, renters, people living in RVs or in cars, or the homeless. So we are all, precariously balanced here. So we want to build those bridges. And the answer, the politicians aren't going to save us. It's the self-activity of the working class. So if you want to see that in action Sunday morning.
What time?
10 a.m. at Ross Camp.
10?
And if anybody's looking to donate anything to the Ross Camp, what they immediately need right now are gallons of water. So if anybody has, that ability to donate, that's what is currently needed the most of.
And if you have Venmo, you can Venmo at DSA Santa Cruz, DSA-Santa Cruz. And Target has those gallon waters for 99 cents.
And then those
And
waters
our
can
monthly
be
meeting is
refilled.
Saturday.
And then those waters can be refilled at New Leaf for 40 cents.
Very cool.
Great, thank you. Rich?
Saturday at 3, a lot of announcements. First time.
I think one of the things that's helpful too is when we talk about these things, that there is data. And what's so crazy is how off even the city staff is. Like, there's a Santa Cruz County survey of homelessness from 2017, and it literally says that 2/3 of homeless people are not addicted to drugs. And so, like, there is like, even like, I don't care if anyone's addicted to drugs. I don't think that should determine like how we treat anyone. But it's just, they're not operating, and we can show that. They're biased, they're bigoted, and the data, that their own data, this is public data, it shows that they are operating from not reality, right? So.
I mean, they're assuming that they're acting like everybody's a drug addict.
But it's a very small minority.
Well, and that idealism has stopped progress from happening in Santa Cruz for so long now that I feel like it's, the camps and the homeless problem is a direct result of that. I mean, some of these things, obviously, we're in a room full of activists that have been trying to say this for years and years and years, and they've been getting that. So yeah, a lot of this could have been solved if that wasn't going on.
So I just want to say that on the 9th at City Council, it'd be really good if everyone went there. That's super important. But one of the most important aspects of showing up at City Council on the 9th is to get an idea of when if the eviction is for sure going to happen, starting the next morning. And at that point, we will know when we want to start a direct action at camp someplace.
When you say eviction, you mean they're going to post a notice and then they'll have to evict?
Well, so what I am saying is that the City Council could potentially vote to delay the April 17th eviction, and they could delay the posting of the notice and the pressure to drive everyone out starting on the 10th, because the theory is they're supposed to start driving everyone out on the 10th. So by the 17th, the only people there are they can just be, all their stuff can be bulldozed and thrown away. And
7-day notice.
Yeah, so that's what the plan is now. So
there was enough pressure from the Depot Park people to get that sleeping spot agendized to be slated off of. So if you go to the meeting.
So if you go to the meeting, so if we all show up at the meeting, we will all know together that the plans that they currently have are continuing, or we will hear that the 4 more progressive city councilors have voted to delay the eviction. But that's kind of the game that's happening, so then we all know on the 9th, they're going to evict starting the next morning, so then we know, okay, now we're gonna mobilize to start the new camp, or another camp.
All right, so we got a list going on here, and
then Crystal and Daryl.
Okay.
Okay, so I just want to say, the city has been, it's well documented, the city has been doing nothing for over 30 years, except distributing money. And when they distributed money, the organization that's in charge of distributing the money is called the Homeless Action Partnership. So it's really interesting when you go to these meetings for the Homeless Action Partnership because, there's often not a single homeless person there. The homeless person who was there for a long time is great, and that person is no longer homeless, lives very far away, and often can't make it to the meeting. So I just want to say this pattern also is represented at city council meetings in front of all of us when they say, and here's a list of stakeholders. We have the business community, and then we have the nonprofit community, and then we have the faith community, and then we have the city, and then way at the bottom of the list, sometimes they actually mention homeless people. So the reason this is so critical is thanks to the Ross Camp Council people, Desiree, Crystal, Santos, thanks to Alicia's fantastic organizing, for the first time in years and years, we actually have homeless people who are representing those who are actually experiencing homeless in its various forms. And I just want to say, over the years, I have been to countless presentations. One of them was the Fresno people who got millions of dollars in restitution to homeless people there. And they were absolutely clear that anytime you organize, the people who are needing the change, whether it's labor, whether it's women, whether it's people of color, absolutely have to be the people who are directing it, who have the loudest voice, who get to represent themselves. Now in this case, I think one of the things I just want to quickly add, homelessness is such a mortal proposition. That is, it is deathly to be homeless.
That's it.
It is absolutely to be vulnerable in about 5,000 ways that we could all start to mention. But this is one of the reasons that we who are sheltered, we who are not homeless right now, really need to support, empower people at the camp to say thank you so much for coming tonight. I can't tell you how refreshing this is, what a difference it is, what a change it is, how it makes me feel hope. And please let us know what we can do to support you all, because you are us and we are you. And the next thing and the last thing I just want to say, I do not want any more of this us and them that the people are getting away with, led by the way, sometimes our police chief who keeps directing people to settle down. Anyway, I said it down. No more us and them. This is about us. We need a community, as Alicia said, that's going through a moral revival instead of a moral, chaotic, like, let's all hate on these people and then watch people have to get carted off to jail or whatever, and their children too, and so forth. Thank you for listening.
We have a little list going on here, and next was,
I'm sorry,
we have, Krista was next, and Daryl was next, then we had Phil, and Sarah. All right, so Crystal, then Daryl.
Yeah, I would like to say, it was lightweight scary to come here and face all you guys. You know, with the way that I've been treated from some people in the community, like I'm less than, when I'm just human and I have a heart. And, you know, we work, another thing I was going to say is that we work really hard to get those codes that the fire chief needed, you know, to get everybody to, you know, and we couldn't get everybody, but, you know, for the majority, you know, Desi and, you know, others, you know, worked really hard to get, you know, things accomplished, and, you know, for it to just get shut down, it's like, okay, now we got the community, or our community, to work together, you know, and listen to each other, and you know, whether they don't want to or not, they still do what needed to be done to make sure that they have a place to stay, you know, and it's just, yeah.
Thank you.
Daryl?
And also thank you to the people who got us together, Phil and so strategically, next council meeting, we need to be aware that before we have any information, there will be the time for community input. We won't have any input from the council prior to our opportunity to speak. So we need to have everybody that's here and all your neighbors, all your friends show up Tuesday at the council meeting. Line up when that
6 p.m.
Yeah, 6 p.m.
We don't know what time it is.
You mean it might be in the afternoon?
Yeah.
Okay, so if it's in the afternoon, you need to line up, what, at 12?
The time varies, sometimes 12, sometimes 3:15. We'll know tomorrow night.
Okay, so we really need you on that email or your phone.
And I will post it, as soon as we know, I'll post it on Santa Cruz County Homeless Advocates.
Just saying
What
this
time
because
do
the
you
other
do that?
side gets there early to get the seats, and they get in a line, nice and orderly.
Yes.
Well, they're gonna be seeing a lot of me.
And just so everyone knows, that is a
I wanna be in
tactic
the
that
room.
is used a lot. They will fill the room, they'll try to make sure, you know, our side doesn't be, isn't able to get in there, say our piece, they'll line
Really
up.
uncomfortable to get
Right,
there.
dirty
It's
politics.
important to get there early, it's important to get in line.
Isn't that been happening all the time?
Okay, everybody take note of what you just said. Get there early, get in line. And if you haven't been to council meeting, the line means on the right side, right along the windows. You just ask the person that work your way up the line, are you speaking? If they're not speaking, you move on up. Are you speaking? So you get as far up the line as you can go. Number one, show up early, get in line early. Number three, I would suggest that we have a common request or demand, however you want to say it.
A sound bite.
Yeah. The message is, stay on message. One, it needs to be, whatever the council does, it needs to be self-governing. Two, it needs to be at Ross Camp until there is ready a viable alternative that is well conceived, well funded, ready to be integrated into all the services of the county. And three, you have your third.
Just go there and if
Stay
you can't think of what
stay
to
on
say.
those two things.
Yeah.
Let them hear it from everyone repeatedly. Those are our objectives. And I would say, don't say, other than your personal situation. If you, thirdly is why it's important to you, and keep that to a minute.
And if you're afraid to speak or your friend is, bring them anyway, we'll stand with them.
Right.
All you have to say is, I support the Ross Camp, we need numbers.
Yeah.
That's right.
Okay, we
My
have
next-
Daryl,
Alright, so
Phil,
we-
Sarah, James, Keith. Daryl, Phil, Sarah, James, Keith.
Okay, Phil?
I just have to, out of respect to Robert and Keith, there are some issues on this agenda that we made up. First of all, we do apologize. We were supposed to hand out an agenda, and there was a lack of communication between us, so that's why we didn't have something in hand, so we apologize for that. Basically, the couple of issues that we had down, we're talking about, but we have 10 more minutes, and unless there's more discussion, I'd be glad to read a couple of those, and we can decide if we want to continue. But they're pretty close to what we're talking about now.
Can we do like 30
Do we have a
seconds?
consensus to do that, or else we're going on to Sarah? You wanna
Well,
put
we should
thumbs
probably
up?
go on to Sarah.
Yeah, just go on to Sarah.
Okay, that's Sarah.
Okay.
All right. Go ahead, Sarah.
You talked a little bit about the hack, and I think someone mentioned the $10 million, almost $10 million that just came into county. I'm just wondering if that's gonna be factored in at all into like, what the message will be at a march going from the camp to wherever it would go. To me, it seems like the county is squandering that money. They're spreading it too thin across too many places. And a big fat goose egg went to permanent supportive housing, so our elderly, our disabled, like members of our community are being flushed down the toilet with that money, and I just can't even believe it.
Yeah. What's happening? Could you explain
No,
more?
no.
Well,
I don't understand. Could she explain more? I don't understand what you're saying. I
We
like
also,
Sarah.
yeah, but we have to keep a little close watch on the time.
That's fine.
Yeah.
Yeah, just from what it seems so far, basically no money is going to any sort of permanent supportive housing developments.
Oh, because like we said, a goose egg was going there. I don't know what that means.
Zero.
Oh, okay. I don't know that.
Sorry, yeah. My mom uses
I just
that
learned this
term.
yesterday.
Yeah,
Okay, so nothing is going to permanent support.
nothing to like long-term solutions that would help people that need a permanent place to live for the rest of their, like.
Yeah, right? Age and place.
We need you to organize with us.
James?
Please.
Yes.
So one thing that's really important, I've been in a lot of different activist scenes, a couple of encampments actually, and it's very important to operate as if the camera is always watching. This is very, very important. You know, that if there's any fault, they're gonna come down on you. And you need the community support, because as it is, you know, it's I mean, you know, we were like tree sitters up there, and we had our encampment, and it was like, they just came down on us like we're, you know, criminals. And it was like, it was crazy. We weren't doing anything wrong, nothing wrong. And we had like, you know, anyway, but so it's, in any kind of political action, you know, you've really got to operate like that. You need, I hate to use the word enforcer, got you. Yeah, I hate to use the word enforcers, but you really need to push a serious agenda there. You know, that's all there is to it. You know, make sure it stays clean, gets clean, and stays clean. You have to make sure no one's doing shitty shit. Otherwise,
makes that a little difficult sometimes.
I understand 100%.
We're working on
At
it.
Occupy, okay, good, because at Occupy, it was like, it got crazy.
Yeah, if you see
Up in
that,
Oakland,
right.
it was up there in Oakland.
So, we have Keith last, and then I just wanna ask our brother Matthew here from Oakland if you had any input at in the end, like, if you don't, that's fine.
Yes, I mean, this is a little lame, but it's still somewhat potentially important. And when Depot Park people came out to protest, there was 989 pages of emails mostly attacking the homeless.
So they said.
That were on the agenda. So when you look at what happens is on the city council website, for the agenda item, you can go and read all these emails. So it's valuable for us to have a lot of emails saying we support the continuation of Ross Camp until there's appropriate real solutions, and then try to get everyone you know. So if you have an email list, email everybody on your email list, please send, and it's something, I forget the address, but
It's
like,
city council, all one word,
Right.
at cityofsantacruz.com.
Yeah.
City council at cityofsantacruz.com.
And let's aim for 900.
yeah, so, because they're doing the same thing, where they're going to have hundreds and hundreds of emails against
Kid,
any
it
solution.
will help if you send.
I can send a sample to somebody.
Right,
Yeah.
and then we can just keep on passing on.
Correct. Good idea.
But I'm
Right.
And then I have the
Send
one
out the
last,
email.
the one last thing is that we're hoping to have a meeting on Monday at noon at Ross Camp to help with organizing amongst people at Ross Camp for all of these different subjects that we've been talking about. And we'll have food there. And I'm suggesting that we also post a sign on the fence advertising the meeting, and then also an announcement for the city council. Now tonight, and I just want to make one last point.
What Monday is that?
Next Monday that there is, whatever that Monday
Drew
is.
will also be there at 4 to speak to the Ross Camp Council, so it's a good chance, you know, it's not usually like just an open meeting, it's like with us in the Ross Camp Council, but it's our last chance, you know, before Tuesday. So I wouldn't be opposed if anybody wanted to show up and say, you know,
Do we
what
want
are
to
you
set
gonna
a
do
time?
about this, you know?
But it's a
Are you
12
gonna
noon
propose
meeting.
Oh, 12
not
noon?
close
At
the-
Ross Camp,
Monday,
on Monday.
Okay,
next.
so there's a 12 noon meeting at Ross Camp on Monday, and there's also a 4 o'clock one.
Yes, 12 and 4 on Monday.
That's true. And then tomorrow night, there's an important one, if you can all go, at Depot Park
At 6.
at 6.
I'll be there.
I'll be
And then I
there.
have some.
I'll be there.
but I
And
can't
a really
remember.
important city council meeting on the 9th, Tuesday the 9th, following the meeting.
And there's also, like I said, Santa Cruz County Homeless Advocates, if you forget that we said all this, you can just look in there, constant reminders and posts and invites for all these things.
Did we have the last agenda item?
Yeah, I guess
Hurry.
we're gonna finish at 9. I hope you're okay with that, because, you know, we didn't get some of the things that we had down. But we had a great discussion, it worked, we're very grateful for everybody coming. We hope people will stay involved by communication and respect. And in that light, I want to say, for me, Robert and I especially exemplify the issue of dialogue. Because Daryl, believe me, lots of times Robert and I don't agree. But we work together with Steve, with Keith, with others, because we know this issue is so important. So in that context, I hope that everybody will make sure, continue to be involved, join our groups, and stay respectful, and keep focused that the real issue is human suffering, and we want to do something about it.
Can we stay later, or do we have to be out here?
I think you can stay.
15 minutes, half an
Just
hour.
wondering, because I noticed people still want to.
Yeah, sure. I think you can
Yeah,
stay.
Thomas walked by and he didn't seem to care. So
I'm
he'll
on-
come in and tell us.
Stay until he tells us to leave.
Yeah, I thought,
But in that
Sarah
context,
and Crystal,
but in that
Sarah.
context, please make sure that we thank Thomas and the group. Because
I'm on the board.
Okay. Okay.
Okay, who's next?
Crystal, Sarah.
Sarah? Anybody want one of the delicious business cards?
Yes, please.
Sorry.
Pass them around.
I just wanted to say that, now, I'm no longer at the Ross Camp. I got blessed by Jesus, and that's exactly who I know it is. Because there's been people waiting on that list for Page Smith for over 2 years, and somehow I got blessed.
You don't need
And I've been there
this.
for about 2 weeks, and I just started a job today, and so it does work. You can eventually get to somewhere where you can house people, where they can take a shower every day, and do laundry. It's amazing the difference that it makes. On that note, I have to get going. I haven't been here.
My name's Raphael.
Tomorrow, it's really good to meet you. No, I want to say it, but I just want to say it. Not everybody is their fair. Just have a little bit of faith and just give one chance, one more chance, that's all it is.
I would love to work with you.
Faith,
You seem
exactly.
really
Thank
you everyone for coming. I
great
appreciate
mind
you
for
all.
coming up tonight.
Yay!
Alicia.